Uprisers, hi, it is Tricia LaCroix once again with Sacred Uprising Institute and Conference, and we are awakening infinite love here on this platform. Today I have Dr. Lisa, and she is going to be talking about parenting is divine. So just while we wait for her to get on, I wanted to talk about next week's videos. We won't have any videos tomorrow. However, next week on Monday, we start with Dak, and he will be talking about the God-shaped hole, fill it yourself. And then Tuesday, we have Courtney Walsh coming back on, and we have Lori Green coming back on. Also want to mention our YouTube channel, and that is Sacred Uprising. Go ahead and subscribe. We just did some new videos today, and it had to do with different crystals. So go and subscribe so you can always be informed when we have new videos up on YouTube. We also have our conference coming up September 18th, 19th, and 20th, and that'll be at Mount Madonna, which is right outside of Santa Cruz, California. If you want to check out the venue, hold on, Lisa. Let's see. There, I just sent you another invite. So Facebook changed up on how we do live videos. So we're having issues. We're always having technical difficulties. So we got to figure out a better way to do this so we can share these videos with everybody. So hopefully Lisa can get on here now that I just re-invited her. So anyways, mountmadonna.org, so go check that out. And you can go to sacreduprising.com and you can take advantage of our early bird special. Lisa, I'll send you it. The scent has already been sent to you for you to get on. Let's see if we can make this work. Hold on. Okay, adding you right now, Lisa. Let's see if this works. There we go. They have complicated this, have they not?
Oh, gotta love gotta love technology.
Oh, Facebook. All right, well, I'm so glad we got, now Bliss had a video this morning on the Conscious Evolver, and we couldn't even figure it out. So fortunately, in between Bliss's videos and yours, I was able to figure out, okay, I can invite somebody on, but it's a little bit of an issue. So anyways, it's so good to see you on.
You too. Thank you. Thanks for having me. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you. You like my earrings? Got the whole cowboy thing going.
They're awesome. What is it?
It's a cactus, and a cowboy hat, and a star, and a feather. Yeah, I thought, well, why not? That's fun.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. So parenting is divine. Talk to us. I can't wait to hear this. I was like, really, it's funny. At this one point, I was talking to one of my oldest daughter about her having a child, and she said, "Mom, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a child right now." And I said, "Well, you got to be pretty confident about it. Like if you're going to put a tattoo on your face, you really have to be aligned to it."
Right.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can take back.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Soul, good to see you here. I think I saw Lori earlier too. So parenting is divine. So let me just say to your daughter in that sense that I was not ready to be a mom until Gabe was in my arms, and I was like, oh, okay, well, shit, I guess we're gonna do this. I guess this is what we're doing.
On.
And then I learned very quickly. But why I think parenting is divine is, for many of us, myself in particular, I grew up in an environment where it was like this, children are to be seen and not heard. There wasn't a lot of freedom and choices to be made in our own lives. Right. It's like we were told what to do, we were told what to eat, we were told, it's all of these things. And it was like,
feel. Yep.
Do what?
And how to feel.
Right,
yep.
How to feel, sometimes who you're supposed to hug, who you're supposed to, all of those things. And so when I became a parent, it was like my position was really that I didn't want to create or raise children as though they were just little kids that didn't have a sense of self or didn't know who they were, or that they didn't have options to exercise. Right. And so I really tried to take this perspective of not them being like children, I mean, although they are children, they need guidance, but more so that they are emerging adults that will someday have to make their own choices and make their own decisions. And I chose to see them as little divine beings that it was my job to shepherd them, not to, you know, mold them, but to provide a safe container within which they could emerge as they were meant to be.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because, you know, there was like how our parents raised us, that we were there to be controlled. And like you said, for my children, it's the same thing. I want to shepherd them. I want to guide them, but never control them.
Right. Right. So I approached it that way from a very early age, when they were very early. It was like, I always tried to give them choices and exercise. So it was never like free reign, because then they would be out of control and discipline. But it was more about being in this space of giving them choices. So it's like, do you want spinach for dinner, or do you want broccoli? Like, those are your choices. You get to choose one. I will make one of them. Which one do you choose? And in that way, it's really about respecting and reverencing their sovereignty.
Right.
It's about teaching them how to respect themselves as divine beings, how to make good choices, how to be themselves without feeling like they have to conform. So, like, I haven't dressed my kids. Like, I don't pick their clothes for them. They're older now, so of course that's different. But even when, like, I'm thinking about when they started dressing themselves when they were like 2. And sometimes they would come out looking like, Eden especially would come out looking like Punky Brewster. Like, she would come out with like leggings and like a sequin skirt and some of my like high knee socks on and cowboy boots, and just like, you know, nothing matched, but it was her. It was how she wanted to show herself in the world. And it was me allowing that and encouraging that, I believe, allowed her to form her own position, her own opinions, what she likes, and again, exercise her sovereignty, that this is your body. You get to choose how you dress it, within reason. Like, again, with food, because kids, of course, if you give them free reign, they're going to just like eat cookies and donuts. But there's certainly like expectations and things that they're supposed to do, which is basically like, and I tell them it's not about, with mine especially, I never tell them it's about like, I frame it in the sense more of like, when it comes to nutrition, about fueling your body and giving your body what it needs to function well in the world.
Right.
Yeah. So I really believe, because we are divine beings having a human experience, that we really have to recognize that teaching our children how to make their own choices and how to live their best lives and being their divine selves. So it's like teaching meditation practices, teaching all of these things is really about teaching them how to tap into their own divinity and to live from that core space, as opposed to being swayed by opinions of others, being swayed by popular culture, feeling as though they have to conform.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Courtney said, from a psychology standpoint, it's called authoritative parenting, correct?
Right. Making them do everything.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's, you know, there's different way of parenting. Now, I have heard, I'm an Aquarius, and when it comes to an Aquarius, we parent within the parameters of being friends with our children. And I do have, my youngest tells me I'm her best friend, and I'm very close to my oldest one as well. But there is the guidance part of it. There is the time to be their friend and listening, but then there's that time you step back and you're doing the guiding. But it is so against my nature to do the controlling. But like, you know, and it could be, some of it I think is a generational thing. The other thing is just people who like to control. Because like in my household, when I was raised, you ate 3 meals a day, you ate everything on your plate. There was this regimen that you had to stick to. You couldn't even, you know, have your own, I could have my feelings, but if I showed it on my face, there was, you know, I'd be reprimanded for that. So, giving them, and I love how you said it, that you give them choices, so they get to make choices. Hey, Christy, within those boundaries that we set. And I love that. That I think is incredibly healthy, because they still get to make choices, but you know they're making healthy choices because you're giving them healthy choices.
Giving them the option and giving them the reasons for it. So it's like I did this a while back because I really do believe in consent. I believe that children should consent to most of what happens in their life, and it's things like they should at least have an opportunity to have a discussion about it. So there are certain choices, like I'm the parent here. I'm a single mom, so there are certain choices that I just have to make. But I don't ever make choices without that influence them, that impact them, without at least having a discussion and explaining the rationale and explaining why things happen.
Right.
So, for instance, a few years back, we were doing vaccinations, and Gabe had to get a flu shot, and he was just freaking out because shots suck. But we sat in the doctor's office, and I was just like explaining why he needed it and why it was good for him, and explain like the context of, you know, his being immune compromised and so on and so forth. And I talked him through it until he was ready for it, till it felt like it wasn't happening to him, but it was a choice that he was making. And so it's funny because I feel like this sense of almost like emotion coming up as we have this discussion, because I remember like I signed the consent form because I had to, but he also signed it, so he was, you know, agreeing to it. This was his choice, within, of course, the parameters of what he needed to do, but he understood why.
Right.
And he felt like he was making his, like he had a voice and he had something to be said about it. And I feel like that is a way of honoring their divinity and their sovereignty. Being a parent and parenting from parenting your children from a divine perspective does not mean that you don't guide them.
Right.
When you think about like spirituality, like God disciplines. I mean, if you want to go in that direction, like there's beliefs that God provides discipline and lessons to children because they need it, because we need it, because we need guidance. It's the same thing. It doesn't mean that you just let them run around, you know, and act wild. It means that you give them discipline from a space of love, honoring their divinity. It's like that the divine in me honors the divine in you, and so I'm going to treat you as though you are a divine being who is emerging into your adulthood. And I'm going to give you the foundation upon which to stand so that you can make good choices and be the best expression of your divine self in this human experience.
You know, it's, you know, and I find that when I explain things, we're going to talk about my youngest, when I explain things to her, then she is more willing to observe it and go, oh, okay, I got it. Okay, understood, Mom. So, for example, this was months ago, she had some hickeys, which she was not supposed to get. And Mom, I got mad that she had the hickeys, but then she goes, Mom, please explain to me why I shouldn't have hickeys. So then I went through what I felt is that why you shouldn't have hickeys. And so when she started dating this new boy, it was something she told me the other day, that she told him, she goes, look, you can't give me hickeys. And she explained to him why. So I found it really interesting to go, okay, so not only did I teach my daughter why I feel that it's inappropriate, but she taught her significant other why now she believes it's inappropriate as well. So when we give that explanation, when we can talk to them about our children about it, they can actually, once again, you know, help the whole, you know, heal the whole and explain it as well, because all of a sudden it becomes part of who they are.
Absolutely. And it teaches them, there's just so many lessons to be in that. So good job for you, Mom, to teach that lesson. Is so important. Yes, it teaches them that sense of like they're rational. Like kids are not, of course, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like kids have the rational abilities as an adult, because they don't. Right. Like neuroscience is very clear that brains don't develop at the same rate. They develop differently. There are different neuron pruning processes. Like I'm very familiar with that. But that doesn't mean that they're completely incapable of reason. And sometimes, especially if you have strong-willed children, like mine are very strong-willed. I mean, good Lord.
Shocking.
And so, yeah, great.
It's something about an apple in a tree.
I know. I don't know where they get it.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Don't know.
But they are very self-directed, strong children. And I never want that spirit to be broken in them. Like, I never want them to feel like they have to, be anything other than who they are to be loved and accepted. Right. And so I say to them often things like, that strong will of yours is going to serve you very well in the future, but there are certain times where it doesn't serve you. And then, like, in trying to engage in a battle of wills over whether you're going to eat your dinner or not is not going to serve you well in this situation.
Right.
That's the reality. But I never want them to not assert themselves. They understand, if I explain to them, like when I shifted a while back, where I was always the mom that I would like sort the laundry and I hang it up because I like clothes to be hung up, and then I would go put their clothes in their closet, put their laundry baskets, and then they're just supposed to put the other stuff away. And then one day I was like, you know what, fuck this, it's too much work, I'm tired of doing all of this. Like, they're old enough now that they can do it. And so they're like helping me put clothes away. And this is just one of the, like a small example, but I said to them, I explained to them, I was like, look, it's just really time consuming, and you guys are old enough now that you can take some of this responsibility on your own. And when I explained it and said, plus, mom is doing everything else around here. Like, I do everything else. So this is right. one you can take some responsibility. And they were like, okay, cool. They understood it. They were able to tap into their empathy and compassion and recognize that because I'm a single parent that I have a lot to do, and that they're like, this is one area for sure that I can take ownership. So that is why I say treating them as though they're divine, and that they're not just these little beings that don't have any function or rationality. They're actually quite capable if you treat them and speak to them like they are divine beings, that they will become that.
I agree with you, but I want to add a little twist to this, because what came to mind is this. I have some friends that have children with special needs. One friend, she has two children. They're both bipolar. They're both autistic. They're both, there's a lot of issues going on there. And I got to tell you is that is incredibly difficult when I hear what she's going through to parent in a divine manner, like we would to a child that doesn't have those obstacles that her children have. And, with you talking about this, I think it would be beneficial to do a video with somebody who understands on how to parent. You have kids, these young girls that get pregnant, and they think that having a baby is just cute and it's wonderful, and it is cute and wonderful. But what they don't understand is that many times, especially in today's society, that you do have children that have all these, like you have a son that has some health complications, but you can have these complications. And it really takes somebody of maturity and to be really in touch with their source divine within to be able to parent under such extreme circumstances.
Absolutely. That is the thing, because Gabe has a lot of complications, a lot of things that come up. And I'll tell you the God's honest truth, that there have been so many times with him in particular, because of his needs, that I have reached my breaking point where I'm like, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, this is too much. It's too much for me to handle. And that's really when you have to draw into that, your own source of divinity, your own sense of getting connected to God, right, and getting connected to because sometimes in our human capacity, we just don't have what it takes. It's like, I'm done, I'm tapped out. As a single parent, you don't get a break from it. It's not like there's like somebody that you can tap right into the ring when you're exhausted. You just got to do it yourself. And so there's that sense as well. But it doesn't have to be, it's more challenging, or it can be challenging, but it doesn't have to stop you. Right. And I think the biggest piece that we have to remember is it just takes a different set of skills. It just takes a different way of managing. One of the things that we use, and you've heard me talk about this before as a practice, is mindful breathing. Mm-hmm. Is really into this mindful breathing space. And part of that is teaching them to tap into their own divinity. To recognize, look, when you feel like you're tapped out and you don't have anything else to give, go within, follow your breath, because that will help you draw those resources that you don't know that you have.
Right, right, exactly. It's the
and as a special needs parent that I've been practicing for a long time is that people always ask me this. People will always ask, like, you know, because Gabe had a heart transplant, for those who are watching, and there's some related neuro effects that go along with that. And so people always ask me, they're like, he's doing so well, like what's your secret? And I'm like, he doesn't know that he's not supposed to.
Right,
He has
right.
no idea that he's not supposed to do exactly what the other kids do. He just knows that he might have to go about it in a different manner. And that's okay. And that's just what it is. It's not a flaw. It's not a failure. It's not a limitation, because we never phrase it in that way. It's just something that we have to work around.
Right. Yep. You know,
Yeah.
I want to share, if it's okay with you, something that was said to me before I had my youngest that radically changed my life with raising my youngest. And I was in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And I had a friend, and she had 2 teenagers. And she had one of the most beautiful relationship with her son and daughter. And I asked her one day, I said, what is your secret? How is this? Because you don't typically see such a closeness between a mother and children, especially at that age group and age range. And she said, Trisha, she said, I communicate with them and I never react. So whenever they say something to me that I might be like internally going, oh my God, I never react. I just start asking questions. And so she gave me an example. And she said that her son at the time made a comment that he's going to smoke. You know, it was something so simple as that. And instead of her saying, no, no, that's unhealthy, and telling him all the reasons why he shouldn't do it, and it's not healthy, and blah, blah, blah. Instead, she said, okay, so why are you making that decision? You know, she started asking questions. And by the time they were done with it, it wasn't that. It was just, he was just, mouthing off because of his friends and whatnot. So I saw the difference between her. There was something different with her relationship with her kids, and how they communicated with her, and how they told her everything, and how she took what they said and embraced it. And that's what I incorporated with mine, is that I have very little reaction when something is said to me that internally I'm flipping out, going, oh my God. And I think you know of some of the things because I've told you. But instead, outwardly, I'm going, okay, and I'm listening. So my kids tell me most everything because I don't have that reaction. And I think communication, just like in a love relationship, so many times we look at our kids and go, oh, they're just our kids, so we don't listen. We're not really listening to them. And they really need to be listened to. You really need to communicate and ask questions rather than making judgments on what they're telling you. Ask questions, find out why, and really go deep in, and not just brush over it because you're kids and you've got something better to do, but really take an interest in what they're saying. Just like if you were on a date with somebody that you were interested in, and you're asking questions because you really want to know that person.
Right. Absolutely. That is a huge thing. Communication is huge. It's such a significant thing. A lot of people approach like raising children as though the children are a possession.
Yeah.
That they are not. They are my children. And I try to be really mindful about that. Like, I'm your mother. You're not my children. Like, I don't possess you. I don't own you. My job is to give you really strong and deep roots so that you can soar.
Right.
Because your job is to help them be independent, capable, young adults and then adults, and to give them the resources. We don't own them. We don't possess
Right.
them. They are not ours. We're just like, safekeeping. That's basically it. Like, we're just safe and helping to raise them into great adults so that they can go out and do the things that they're meant to do in the world. And when you understand that as a parent, that it shifts the energy. It shifts in the sense that I'm like, I want to hear what my children have to say. First of all, they're funny as hell. So if you just get an opportunity to sit with them, they're funny, smart, compassionate kids. I'm not just saying that because I'm their mom. I know every parent thinks their kid is amazing. My kids are genuinely, like, I always get feedback. Like, I get emails like once a week from the school or from some other parent that's like, your kids are really great. We had a great just great leaders, compassion, all of that stuff. But that doesn't come because they're told what to do. It's because they're shown, first of all, it's a lived experience for them. And secondly, because they are treated with respect. Like, I don't treat them like they're to be seen and not heard. I want to hear what they have to say. I'm curious. I want to offer them my presence. I was actually talking to Lori last night, and I said, I got to go because Eden told me a while back that she's like, I just like to, you're on the phone. You've been doing a lot of work in the evenings, and I feel like we're not getting enough time to spend together. So is it possible for you to, not do that? And I was like, absolutely. And so I've just kind of cleared my schedule. And so if somebody's like, hey, can you do this, or can you talk? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can talk, but I'm not available between this time and this time because that's my time for my children.
Right.
And they feel loved and respected and cherished and honored, just like any of us would want to be in a relationship.
Right.
Kids are different. They want to be loved. They want to feel presence. They want to be respected. They want all of that too. And as parents, how in the world can we tell them, especially as they get older and start dating and start engaging in romantic relationships, whether that's same sex or opposite sex, how do we teach them respect and that they're worthy if our behavior is conveying to them that they're not?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we learn what we live. That's the thing, is that people don't understand that. It's like your parents, my dad used to say this to me as a kid. He said it joking, but the message, obviously, because I haven't been a kid for a long ass time, but it stuck when he would always say, like, do as I say, not as I do. Because there would be like, yeah, drinking is bad and you really shouldn't do that, as they're like drinking with their friends on the weekends or like playing softball. And I'm like, but you guys drink, and and so I learned what I lived, not what was being said.
Right.
And so we have to understand as parents that the environment that we create for our children every day in our interactions, whether we are present with them, whether we're treating them with kindness and compassion, is how they are going to go forward in the world and how they're going to construct their own relationships as being how they'll see a normal relationship. So if we're telling our kids, I love you, but I'm staring at my phone the whole time, and I've been guilty of this, or I'm staring at the computer screen, or I'm doing anything but looking at you, and we're saying I love you, they're going to hear I love you and I'm ignoring you, as ignoring you or not being present to you is what love is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a difference between words and actions. I absolutely agree with you on that. And we're teaching our children how to respect others, excuse me, not just how we treat others, but how we treat them.
Absolutely.
How we treat them. So we want our children to respect us. Well, guess what? We need to respect them as well.
Absolutely. Right. And they learn that. They learn that they are respect worthy by the way that they treat us. It's like that sense of, where I'm trying to think of, like, there's a meme that goes around, like, where if a romantic partner like were to strike another romantic partner, and it's like, my dad doesn't even hit me, like, what do you think that you, like, who do you think you are? Right. And that's that same energy, that it's like, my mother doesn't even speak to me in that tone, like, why would you think that you can speak to me that way? Right. And that's the energy, is like, you treat them with respect, and they understand that they're respect worthy, that their opinions matter, that their voice matters, that their autonomy matters, that their space is their space. Right. It's like, to be honest with you, I don't even go in their rooms hardly ever anymore. And if I do, I ask for permission.
Yeah.
Because that's their.
Yeah. In fact, my daughter, I never go through her stuff ever, because I think it's a respect issue. You don't do that. Now, there has been one time where I had to, because I knew something was wrong and I needed to deal with it. And so, but otherwise I don't go through her phone or anything. As long as I see that things are, that she and I are aligned, and that things are going well, there's no reason to. And right. She knows, we talk about that. It's really, I mean, respect. Now, I will say, yes, I respect, I have great respect. We have respect, but there's also where there's certain things that I expect from her. There are grades that need to be done. There is no other way, there's no other way. There's not, you do drugs. If there's pot or anything going on, mom's going to get involved and you're not going to be happy about it. So there's certain things like that where, I mean, yes, there are parameters. There's that shepherd role that we have to that I have to make sure that she follows, that she is going in a direction. She doesn't have to follow my path, but she needs to stay away from the wolves that are out there to get her. I need to keep her away from that. So I'm not,
Right.
but at all, we're not saying that you let your kids do whatever. You guide them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's this thing, and I don't know how accurate this is, so if it's not entirely true, just forgive me, everybody, because I've looked it up, but I can't find, I'm not a shepherd, okay? Let me just put it that way. But there's this, I've heard this before, that the shepherd, there's like where the whole like spare the rod, spoil the child thing. And so people interpret that as like striking your child. But what I read, or what I heard and read, was that shepherding actually, like, the shepherd's hook, that there's a wayward sheep, that the shepherd doesn't actually like hit the sheep. What they use is the crook to like pull them back into the flock and keep them safe. And that there's this image of like Jesus, where there's a, what's that? The sheep around his shoulders, I heard this, that is actually when if a sheep is really wild and like really acting crazy, that often the shepherd will break its leg and carry it, and the purpose is to foster a bond, so that now the sheep feels safe with the shepherd, they feel bonded, and they want to stay close, as opposed to running off and being wild and like putting themselves at risk. And that is the job of a parent, is that like sometimes, as you're saying, you may have to do that if they start going off the path, if they start doing things that they're not supposed to do, putting themselves in harm's way, doing dangerous things, that you may have to take corrective action. Right. But it's always from a space of love. It's never from a space of I don't even like the word punishment, because punishment is like, no, it's about, it's about straightening out. It's about getting you back on course. And when you approach your child as a divine being, you understand that it's not about smiting them. It's about getting them back on course.
Right. Yep. Absolutely agree with you.
There are expectations in my house too. They have expectations. They have things that they know that they're supposed to do. And they're very pretty self-directed for as young as they are. They know the difference between right and wrong, all of those things, because they have had the opportunity. We talk about things. There's open conversations. Of course, because I'm the parent, there are certain things that I don't share with them about my own personal life, but that's because they don't need to know at this point. But as far as like honesty and things like that, like, again, it's a role modeling. Like, I don't expect them to do something that I wouldn't do. And so if I don't tell them, like, it's super important to be honest, if I'm not going to be honest with them and in my own personal dealings. Yeah,
yes, absolutely agree with you. And I think we can all think of, I have somebody in my life that is a family member that words are one thing and the actions are another, but she punishes based on words, not on her actions. And so, it just sends a very, haywire message to the universe in her life and in her children's lives on what's expected, what's supposed to do in her relationship with her kids. So, and that doesn't come from, it's not a place of judgment. It's an observation on what's going on. So yeah. And none of us, I mean, I'm not perfect with my parenting. But I do understand with the most important thing, and I'm going to ask you this as well. The most important thing for me with my parenting is the open communication between me and my children. How about yourself? What is the most important element for you?
The most important element, I know this is going to probably sound cheesy, is love. Literally, that everything comes from a space of love. So it's like, if I'm disciplining you, if we're laughing together, that it all centers around love. It all centers around this connection and the love that must remain center for us to function. We all need that. We all need love. And so that really is the primary thing, is that, like, really, and paying attention and knowing how each of them here's love, because they have different love languages. Eden, her love language is like, she wants to spend quality time together, and for her, that's like, she and I will go out on a sushi date, and we'll spend some time eating our favorite sushi and talking and communicating. For Gabe, it's more of like, he likes to play video games. He likes to watch adventure movies. And so with him, I'll do something more like, we'll sit and play like Mario Kart and just laugh, giggle, because they're different and they approach it differently. But what that does is it fosters the conditions for communication, because they know that they can come to me and they can say pretty much anything, and they're not going to get in trouble. They're not, there may be some responses.
Right.
But they're not going to get in trouble. Like, if they tell me the truth about something, that's one of the things that I always say to them is like, just tell me the truth.
Yep.
I'm not going to give you, like, if you tell me the truth about something, you're less likely to get a consequence because you were honest. But if you lie to me, then you will get a consequence, not because you did whatever you did, but because you lied to me, because honesty is such an important thing to me.
Yeah, I've told my youngest that as well. You just go ahead and tell me. And there are times that she is afraid to tell me, but she'll say to me, and I love this, she'll go, Mom, I got to tell you something, but I'm really afraid I'm going to get in trouble. And I'll say, okay, let's put a barrier of love around this. Just tell me you're not going to get in trouble and we can work through it. And then she'll tell me. So, so we've come to that agreement. But you know what? We read the book, 5 languages of love or 7 languages of love, whatever it is. But I've never even considered reading that or having my children read it and understanding what their language is, so I can nurture them based on their language. And I know my youngest, it's gifts. That's how she knows she's loved. It's gifts. But then my Courtney, I have no idea. I've never even considered that. So that's really interesting. I'm going to actually have her look at that and let me know what her language of love is.
Yeah, I think that there's actually 5 love languages for kids.
Okay. Well, she's like 22, so I'm not quite sure if that.
Yeah. I've never read it, but I can't imagine that it's all that different.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, definitely we all have different ways of hearing love and accepting. And so it's understanding that just because somebody's speaking a different love language doesn't mean that they love you any less. It just means that they love you differently, and learning how to meet them on their territory where they are is super, super important for a kid.
Right.
I mean, it's for any of us. Like, it's just, that's why there's a book about it that's been on the New York Times bestseller list for like 11 billion years, because people understand that we have to be able to communicate in that way. But it is important as children. They're not just, they're not just little people that don't have needs and desires, and they're full on human beings that have the same experiences that we have. They have emotions, they have fears, they have all of those things, and we have to respect that and really approach it with the sense. I really believe that parenting is something that you approach with a sense of awe. I know that may sound crazy, but it's like, how wonderful that we have been trusted to shepherd these little souls to become their fullest expression of their own divinity in their own right.
Yep. Oh, I love that. So let me ask you this. Why don't you share with our viewers on what you can offer them as far as your coaching and how they can get in contact with you?
Sure. Well, the best way is to reach me is to add or follow on Facebook. You can also follow me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is blowing up right now. It's crazy. And that's the Love Revolution with Dr. V. And it's literally, the whole purpose is about becoming our highest and best expression of ourselves. You can go to my website if you're interested. It's lisavallejos.com. Can I throw a name out there that's totally not, okay. Yeah. My friend Laura she has her PhD in human sciences. Dr. Laura Tad, and she's an astrologer, and she combines mythology and astrology in the most amazing and brilliant way.
Why haven't you told me about her before?
I think I have. I think I've mentioned her before, but I'll tag her in this post.
Yeah,
she's freaking amazing. But I was having just some, like, this was probably when Eden was about 3, and I was just like, this kid is so strong-willed, and she's so like, like, what's going on? So Laura, actually, ran our charts, mine and hers, mine and Gabe's, to give me some strategies for parenting. And one of the things that she talked about was that, especially with Eden, that because of her chart, because of her energies and who she is, that telling her to do something would automatically like make her rebel. Like she just, just doesn't.
Yeah.
But if I collaborate and if I approach it from more of like, would you help mom with this? She's like, absolutely. And so if I'm like, Eden, go clean your room. She's like, there's like all this resistance and she doesn't necessarily want to do it. But if I say, if I phrase it differently and just say, sweetheart, would you please go clean your room? It would be really helpful. She's like, sure, mom. And she'll like put on music on her iPod and she's in there like doing everything. And I'm like, okay, cool. So literally just sometimes recognizing the differences in your children and adjusting your parenting accordingly can just do wonders in the relationship.
That's awesome. What I gotta say is that, so my family used to say, if you want Trisha to do something, tell her to do the opposite. Because I didn't like to be told what to do. So if you're gonna tell me to do something, I'm not gonna do it. But what I found as I'm older, I just need somebody to explain why somebody wants me to do something. So if you're just gonna tell me to do something, guaranteed it ain't happening. But if you explain to me why, then I'll do it. So understanding those things it's important.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And it's like with kids especially, there's like different energies where it's like, you can tell me what to do, you can tell me, or you can tell me, ask me to do it, or you can tell me how to do it, but you can't tell me, it's like all of this, like, don't tell me what to do and how to do it, because if that's the way, then I'm going to, then just do it yourself, kind of like just that. I've had experience before where it's like, I'm going to do this my way and it may not be your way, but it's my best way and I'm learning and there's space for that. So it's really great. But really, so if people want to get some, I have a very different style of parenting. Somebody was calling it, a while back, like revolutionary parenting, because it's just it's so out of the ordinary. There's a book about that I need to read, which is really, certainly very accurate. So if you have any questions or if people want to just consult about what that would look like and how to approach their children differently, I'd be certainly happy to make myself available for that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being on today. I'm glad we made it work today. Now you are the guinea pig on how this new Facebook Live works, huh? Well,
technology changes so fast that I'm like, okay,
I know.
Thank God for tutorials that can like walk me through it.
I know, right? Well, tomorrow we don't have any videos. I am going to Northern California to go see Mount Madonna and go check out the facility there, and then to spend a weekend with my beloved in Northern California. So we will be back on Monday with Dak at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then we'll jump into the week with the rest of our videos. Dr.
Awesome.
Lisa, thank you so much.
Thanks again. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Thanks.